right, we will get started here, and I guess anybody else who wants to join can do so as we're going. So we're going to go over level 2 exam process, writing tasks, teaching what I'm looking for as an examiner. Tracy has been so kind as to make a nice kind of itinerary for me to keep me on track, which I will probably not do. But at any time, if you guys have any questions, just go for it. I'd like this to be kind of a loose format. All right, Tracy, start it up. Okay, level 2 writing task. Why don't you guys take a second and read down that list. Let me know if you have specific questions. I have the actual written description of these, so we can talk about that if we want to. I don't want to waste our time, though. There's certain things that I'm sure you guys don't have questions about. So first and foremost, in our division, we are not, this certification is not task-based, okay? We have tasks to show us certain movements and timing of movements, all right? So yes, train to the tasks, that's okay, but understand that the reason that we have these tasks are because of the movements involved and the timing of the movements, okay? And I think it's important for participants to understand that. We're not just jumping through hoops. We're not just doing these tasks for no reason. These tasks help us as examiners see what we want to see, okay? Everybody clear on that? So are there any specifics that you want me to go over first?
I want to know what the difference is in the level 2 switch dynamics skidded turns and the level 3. Is it the turn size or shape?
Okay, it's going to be, well, it's going to be, we're going to expect the movements to be more mature, okay? And it's probably going to be on terrain that's a little bit more difficult. Ultimately, and this is something that I always tell people when I'm training for, as far as the writing end of it, train for your level 2 just like you're training for your level 3. Okay, if you if you do more than we need to see at level 2, obviously that's not going to fail you. Okay, so I would say just right now, from the second you get your level 1, be training for your level 3. But that is a great question. So one of the things we're probably going to see at level 2 that would be acceptable, but not acceptable for level 3, is that they'll be flexing through edge change instead of most flex prior to edge change. Okay, that's one that would be acceptable at level 2, is if they're flexing and then they're still kind of flexing as they transition. At level 2, that's probably going to be okay. At level 3, we want to see the most flex prior to edge change. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so an early edge and
what's that?
So like an early edge versus like,
so
kind of right as your base shows the side of the trail.
Basically, what we want to see if you can kind of see this, okay, if I'm flexed, this is me flexing, okay, at level 3, we want to see flex, transition. At level 2, we might see more of a flex through it. Does that make sense? Okay, so they're not most flexed at edge change, they're flexing as they transition. They might be most flexed just after the edge change. So I wouldn't expect maybe the movements to be as dynamic or the timing of the movements to be as on point. And that's kind of a vague thing to say. I still want to have them being close to that. But at level 3, we want to see, the fore aft, the upper lower body separation, all that needs to be on point, and the timing needs to be good. At level 2, you could pass dynamic and have your your timing be slightly off. Any other questions?
Is it possible to have video of what you're talking about?
Yep, I think Tracy has some, don't you?
I think I do. Here,
Okay.
We're going to go through each task and kind of just go through some of the common things that the examiner sees, the common things that tend to fail people, and then the common, there's lots of commonalities between all these tasks. So here's skidded turns. Steve, describe like what they're at, what you're looking for, and this is a basic skidded turn.
Yeah, it's not stated. If you read the actual verbal definition, or excuse me, the written definition, it says basic on the actual title. It just says skidded turns. So these are basic turns. They should be medium radius. And let's talk about what we're looking for. So skid versus a carved lower edge angle, right? It's supposed to be basic, so you're not going to see a lot of upper lower body separation. You're going to find that the board and the body take the same path, which is what we're seeing here. Can you run that one more time?
Yep.
So the thing, I don't like basic skidded turns. I think they're stupid. But they're on the exam. They're hard to do. So like this guy, he's got a little bit more edge angle than I'd like to see. And the turn you can see is it's kind of a scarf. It's kind of in between. I'd like to see a little bit of a flatter board on that. Are they basic? Yeah. Are they medium radius? Yeah. I just like to see a slightly lower edge angle. Okay. Can you guys see what I'm talking about?
What, Steve, what usually fails people on this?
I'd like to throw this out, but it's part of the exam. If it's too carved, I mean, honestly, this is really kind of trying to dumb down writing is what it is. So if you're too precise, so if you're too good of a writer, you might fail this. Which sounds silly, but yeah, we're looking at this is supposed to be very, very basic, like maybe the first link turns that your student would make. Here at Timberline, you know that we kind of try to take it straight to the carve, and so I'm not a big fan of the basic skidded turn. I've never taught it in my life, but we should be able in the exam to do what we're asked to do, right? Okay, let's go to the next one. Dynamic skidded turns. Okay, so I think at this point we all know that dynamic turns are probably the most technical things that you're going to see in the exam. There's upper lower body separation. There's foot to foot movements. There's flexion extension. There's offset. You can see in the rider there, upper body is relatively still and moving down the fall line. The board and lower body are moving around underneath. You can see that the path of the snowboard and the body take different paths, right? That is absolutely passing level 2 dynamic skidded turns. What isn't stated is that we're looking for small to medium radius, and that fits all the criteria there. Except, so what you're seeing right there, that passes level 2 for me. At level 3, kind of to go along with what Charlotte was asking, I'd want to see that the same movements happening on probably some harder terrain. Any questions about
Like
what we're
avalanche
seeing there?
theory on 7th heaven?
Yeah, exactly. And I would like to see that he was making those same exact movements where you need to make those movements. You see a lot of people that can run the demo, but when you actually apply it to tougher terrain, then they have a hard time applying it. And we've had this conversation a lot. I know I've had it with all of you guys. This terrain right here does not dictate that type of writing. So this is more of a demo right here. We actually want to see that type of writing when it's applied to the terrain where you need it, which is steep, steeps, chutes, like bumps, right? He doesn't need to be making those turns right there, but it's a great demo.
What's a common failure that you see for a dynamic skidded turn that people do at the level 2?
Well, first of all, they don't have the proper movements. They're not using enough flexion extension, enough foot to foot, enough upper lower body separation. And so either that or they don't have proper timing of the movements. Definitely, if you want to really zero in on a spot that really I see people have a hard time is at the end of the heel turn and then the heel to toe transition. They have a tendency to kind of stay middle four instead of getting aft at the end of that heel turn, which doesn't allow them to set up the initiation of the toe turn properly. So that's one thing you can think about dynamic riding. It's all important, but where people really get snagged up is that the end of the heel turn, end of the heel to toe transition. And I think, again, I've talked with all of you guys about these things. I think you probably know what I'm talking about. Okay, let's go to the next one. Switch dynamic skidded turns. So we're looking for the same things that we just saw in that last one. It's probably going to be at a lower level. We're going to be looking at it on blue terrain instead of blue to black. Obviously, we're going to expect probably a little bit less movement out of the candidate. The timing might not be as clean. You know, I really at level 2, I just want to see that they can on blue terrain make some moves while riding switch. Obviously, like I said, the same exact things that we were looking for, the other we're looking for. I just would expect slightly less. Right here, let's look at this particular rider. That's passing level 2, I'd say. But would like to see, let's look at the end of the heel turn. See on this heel side edge, let's watch this next heel turn. You'll notice that the shoulders stay with the board instead of kind of staying down the fall line right there, meaning he has to kind of pull it around, pull it through. So if that was him riding natural, I don't think it's a pass, but for switch, I'm expecting less. So I'm probably okay with that at level 2 switch. But watch the end of this heel turn. Watch how he has to pull through. It's subtle.
Right there.
Yeah.
He drops the shoulder before anything else.
And he has to, because he wasn't creating that upper lower body separation at the end of the heel turn, then he has to start that initiation by kind of moving the upper body first instead of having the upper body down and the lower body catches back up to it, right?
That's my worst habit in my switch dynamic.
Yeah.
What are common failures are the same you'd see forward versus switch?
Yeah, up and over movements where instead of keeping the body kind of still and the legs moving around underneath it, it's more of a kind of park and arc and then up and over to make that transition.
Yeah, right there you saw that his shoulder just drive it on around. Okay, what's next? Ooh, level 2 dynamic carve turns.
And this is medium radius on blue terrain. So we're looking for a lot of the same things. It's a larger radius turn, so probably the duration of the movements is going to be a little bit longer. It's going to be a little bit slower, and it's going to be carved. So higher edge angle right here. So these are not looking very dynamic to me. And you can see he's actually kind of getting low through the turn and standing up to make the transition. So the timing is off. So for me, that's not going to pass level 2 dynamic carve turns.
At level 2, what in a dynamic turn do you want to see the center of mass being, moving down the fall line in the same path, or do you mind seeing an up and down movement of the center of mass as long as the board and the center of mass are taking different paths?
Well, that's a good question. So you kind of talk about the difference between vertical extension versus lateral extension. This particular, to me, dynamic carved turns of a medium radius it's a little bit more of a drill than it is actual pure riding. So because it's a demo, if you don't have the forces working against you, you're going to see a little bit more of a lateral, or excuse me, a vertical extension, because the reason you get lateral extension is because you have centripetal force and gravity working against you, right? So you know, at level 2 especially, if we're not putting them on terrain where they actually can get that lateral extension, I'm okay with a little bit of a vertical rise, just as long as it isn't a whole bunch of up and over.
That was something that I had a hard time kind of thinking the differentiation between level 1 and 2 and 3 is that you are a little more, you're going to get a little bit of the up and down more than level 3. It should be solid. It's center of mass. It should be moving down the fall line. It should be rock solid. The lower body is extending out and back to you, out and back to you. But 1, I remember that was the hardest thing for me to take into account watching many exams is you're allowed a little verticality. Ooh, big word.
I don't think that is a word. Another thing here, I would like to see a little bit more of a pure carve. There's a little bit of a scarf there, but basically, as long as the track is narrower than the board width, I'd be okay with it.
Common problems you see right here with a lot of the candidates.
Well, and you'll see this in a lot of them, is they're not using their ankles enough on their heel side turn, and so they have to do more with their hips. And then on the toe side turn, either they don't get hip extension or it's late. Those are problems I see all the time. Again, same thing with as before, the 4 center move on the heel side and not getting aft to set up the heel to toe transition.
So this is to me one of the hardest ones that I see level 2 candidates try and do. I don't know.
Well, I mean, too, like, and I don't want to go down the rabbit hole too far, but to me, when you start talking about dynamic riding that get wider than small radius, it turns into kind of a drill because you're not actually, it's not an application. You're kind of doing it to practice. So to me, dynamic carved turns of a medium radius is a kind of a demo. It's not real pure riding that you would apply to the hill. Like on this particular pitch, I might not even turn, man. All right. Next, leapers.
Oh, leapers. What? So all these tasks are there to show movements or timing of movements. What is the leaper designed to demonstrate to you that the rider can or cannot do?
Right. Leapers are an awesome drill, and they show a lot of things. First of all, to do a leap properly, you have to have your upper and lower body in good alignment. They need to stay that way. What I don't want to see is a rotation through transition. Okay, so it shows upper and lower body alignment. It shows range of motion. Like that particular guy does not have much. But it shows, can they flex and extend? Can they carve? Can they remain in balance? And then also, can they move their center of mass down the fall line while they move the board up the fall line? See, these right here, I wouldn't pass at any level. Those are kind of horrendous. But you can't do a leaper without a carve. If you try it from a skid, it's not going to work. If your upper and lower body are separated, it's going to be funky. The whole idea is that you transition in the air, you land on your downhill edge slightly and carve through the next turn. So things that this guy is doing well, those are carved. He's definitely not showing me any range. So in order to up on weight, you have to be flexed. You have to flex and then quickly extend your legs. He's just not flexing, so he has no range. And because he doesn't have any range, it's very hard for him to get the snowboard off the snow, which means it's going to be hard for him to make that transition in the air because he's barely getting in the air at all.
On average, of all the level 2 exams that you've given, how many folks have you seen kind of exhibit some of these same movement patterns, a not passable movement pattern of not being able to F and E, flex and extend, not being able to keep their shoulders in line with tip and tail, they initiate rotation in the air? What would you say in your opinion?
It happens a lot. I think a lot of people don't understand kind of what they're trying to do on the leaper. And like I said, if you can't carve, a lot of people just don't really know how to hold a pure edge. If you can't carve, you can't do a leaper. So you have to carve, in order to do a leaper. And then I think one of the biggest things is people get afraid of landing on their downhill edge. So they're afraid to move their center mass down the fall line while they move the board up the fall line. So they have to be okay with riding that downhill edge at the beginning of the turn.
Notice some asymmetry between like the heel and the toe side.
Yeah.
I want to ask the peanut gallery in there if you could tell me who knows why there's a difference between the toe side leaper and the heel side leaper.
I know you guys all know this one.
Ankle joint.
What about it?
On the toe side, you can actually, use it, let gravity and your body weight kind of access it, because you're furthest from the fulcrum, that is your ankle. Where on the heel side, you're, on the pivot point. So there's a lot of muscle work to actually access that ability to tilt the board.
Yeah, on the toe side turn, you're using your ankles, knees, and hips to flex, and then you extend them both, or excuse me, all three, to get that up on weight. On the heel side, you are definitely using your ankle joint, but it's not to pop. You're using your ankle joint to hold that edge, so you have a solid platform to jump from. But you need to you're using your knees and your hips only to get that up on weight.
Sweet. So the leaper, really fun drill to kind of see what we got going on in a couple of different realms. Let's move on to bumps. Now this one might need a little bit of telltale sign.
I'll actually read this one because I think that want to make sure it's crystal clear on what we'd be looking for. So blue bumps or moderate bumps on easy black terrain. Show the ability to make continuous round-shaped skidded turns and bumps on blue terrain and moderate bumps on easy black terrain, which that sounds a little confusing, but small to medium radius. Okay, so we're looking for, we're not looking for the gnarliest bumps on the hill, but we're looking for some bumps. In some exams, it ends up just being kind of more of like chundery off-piste. That's okay for level 2. But we're looking for that. It's the same stuff that we're looking for in dynamic riding. But this is why you learn dynamic riding, right? Things that I see in the bumps that fail people. A big one is they end up kind of windshield wiper turning, kind of get up on that front leg and pivot and kind of throw the back leg around, which allows for a quick entry, but then it blows up the end of your turn. The tail just kind of slips away from you. You get that chatter, and then you get blown up and down you go. Also, just the inability to make the proper movements and or time those movements out. Kind of in bump riding, in a perfect world, I would want to see them extending to the trough and then retracting up and over the top of the bump. So extend the trough, retract up and over. But it's just dynamic riding on varied terrain is what it is. We would in a real world like to see once again the center of mass moving down the fall line in a single path, not an up and down kind of thing. At level 2, how much are you okay with seeing some kind of bobbing of the head or bobbing of the center of mass? I'm okay with a little bit. I mean, if they're able to manage the terrain and it's not too detrimental. If I see the same bobble every time in the turn because of it, then that becomes a problem. Like this right here, I mean, for level 2 bumps, I'm cool with this. Pretty much in balance. You can see that the board and the body have taken a slightly different path. You see on the heel turn, you see a little bit of a whip, but that's within the realm of level 2. So for level 2, I think I'd be okay with that. And managing the terrain pretty well, and that's part of this too. I'm looking for movements. Also, is he getting bucked around every turn? Is he changing path? One thing I see in bumps is sometimes people get hung up on an edge. They'll stay on an edge for too long, make kind of a long traverse, and then go into their new turn. We do want to see some rhythm. We want to see some symmetry between the turns.
Yeah, one of the things I remember seeing a lot of folks do at the level 2 realm, watching exams, is they tend to, like, the whole point is you're trying to take a single path down the fall line. Yes, you're having to choose and adjust a little bit because of the bump or how you're approaching it, but you want to make sure that you're not just trying to time your turn or a part of the turn with the trough or with the top of the bump. You have to be able to either ride up over the bump, ride in the trough, or anywhere, trying to keep a consistent toe side and heel side turn shape.
Yeah, I think the name of the game in bumps is pressure management. Applying pressure where there's less, taking away pressure where there's more, and trying to keep the same amount of pressure on the edge through the turns. One thing that I forgot to mention, I'd say this on any of the tasks, is speed control through turn shape. I see a lot of people, they end up, they start out doing okay, and then they pick up more speed and pick up more speed and pick up more speed until all of a sudden they have to do something different. And that's not what we're looking for. We're looking for whatever pitch that we take you to, you're able to manage that pitch at a speed and then maintain that pace.
Shall we move along to the next one?
Sure.
And by the way, so this is, day number 1 of your exam, the writing day. And so you're gonna meet your clinician, you meet the other people, you're gonna go take a warm-up lap or 2, and then you're gonna hop in and do these tasks. So we're trying to get you guys more prepared to, this is what the exam looks like. This is what you're gonna do. So here we are into one of my favorite things on the planet, the half pipe. Or at level 2, the documentation still calls it half pipe. But if you look at the level 1 and level 3, they call it transitional freestyle element. It's the same thing.
All right. So what am I looking for in the half pipe? I'm looking for the ability to separate upper and lower body, and upper body lead. I'm looking for the ability to extend up the wall so that at apex you can retract and line the board back up with the body. I'm looking for an edge change at transition. So like that one right there, he went up on his toes and then he came back, landed on his toes. I want to see him go up on his toes, land on his heels, go up on his heels, land on his toes. We're looking for a strong retraction move. That's one of the big things. And 2, we're looking to not see somebody pop. Right here, you'll notice, look on this front side wall, watch him pop off the wall. Okay, that is not what we're looking for. I would like to see him hold on to that wall longer, and then when he gets to the top, retract. Okay, so his timing is off. You can see pop. He was kind of playing around there, but the idea is hold on to the wall until you're kind of at apex, and then retract and make the transition down the next wall. At level 2, if you're not making it all the way in divert, that's okay. If you're kind of more in the transitional zone, it's okay. But that's also going to change the image a little bit, because you can't truly just make a retraction move until you get to vert. Okay, so if there's a little bit of a pop, but then there's a strong retraction because they're not making it all the way up into vert, that could be okay. It kind of depends at that point on what else is happening. Are they extending up the wall? Is there an upper body lead? Like, so for this guy, see how he comes up on his toe side wall? Okay, see, I would want to see him making a progressive upper body lead to the next wall and then a retraction, and so the board lines back up. So we're intentionally taking our upper body, taking our lead shoulder, pointing it across the next wall so that when we actually get to the apex, when we retract, the board lines back up with the body and down to the next wall we go. In the Northwest, there's a good chance we won't have a half pipe. And so we'd have to find something else, a side hit, some type of a quarter pipe to something. And if we don't find something that we like, as an examiner, I can turn it into a drill. I can be like, okay, we don't have something that I really like here. Let's talk about the movements and let's try to emulate it. Those of you that have ridden with me know we can actually do drills without any transition or vert at all. But in a perfect world, we would have a half pipe.
To me, one of the things that I like about the half pipe is when I see people you know, in the exam, the whole point is it's very easy for me to see a pass or fail. You have, to me, the tip and the tail of the snowboard has to get into the vert zone for a level 2. Level 1, tip and tail can be in the transition zone at apex. Level 2, I'd like to see personally that they get the tip and the tail just into the vert zone. Level 3, we need that tip and tail to be outside the lip of the pipe. So in my mind, the pipe is a very easy one to judge, to grade on. Are you popping off the wall? Are you making it into the vert? Are you transitioning to your new edge? Are you progressively extending, and also with the upper body lead? So I love the half pipe in exams.
Yeah, and like I said before, I think that when you're training for your level 2, you should be training for your level 3. So ideally, if you want to ride pipe properly, you should be trying to get to vert for sure. It's just that isn't necessarily a requirement.
Right.
Air 180s. So what this guy's doing is toe to toes, which is fine. That's an air 180. That's one variation. Let me read something here. Air 180s. So I think it's important to note this. Show the ability to spin 180 rotations in the air, both clockwise and counterclockwise. Okay, so make sure you have, you know, at least a couple of 180s under your belt. I don't really want to tell people what they need to do, but I do need to see a couple variations. Like for instance, this would be fine. He's going front side off his toes and switch front side off his toes. That's 2 variations. He's technically going past 180 because they're toe to toes, and that's fine. But you want to be able to spin clockwise and counterclockwise. I think in a perfect world, if you're going to level 2, you should have you know, all 8 of your 2-foot pop 180s dialed, and then show the examiner everything. But we only need to see a couple.
So pretty simple on that as well to me. Very cut and dried.
The examiner may ask, you know, I like to tell people exactly what I want. I want to see 2-footed pop. Some examiners might be okay if there's a little bit of an ollie in there, but if you're not sure, ask the examiner, and then you'll know. Like, do you care if I have a little bit of an ollie in there, or do you not care?
What are some of the common things that you see, Steve, on a lot of folks in the 180s?
Lack of flexion extension, which you obviously need on this. Lack of pre-wind. If you don't know how to hold a pure edge and you don't know how to pre-wind, these are going to be tough. Additionally, you have to be okay with leaving the snow. See, sometimes people get a little bit, they're intimidated by some of the 180s, and you'll see them do what I call the training wheel, where they'll do the spin and they'll kind of put their nose down and kind of pivot around it. That's not really what we're looking for here. They're supposed to be in the air.
Cool. And like I said, guys, if you have any questions, please shout them out. Sweet nose rolls and switch nose rolls. This is our buddy again.
So you'll notice on these, he's going front side and switch front side nose roll going from his toe edge. I tend to not be too picky on these. You know, I don't need to see front side and back side necessarily. Again, you might ask your examiner exactly what they're okay with. They may say, hey, I want you to go backside. I know at least one examiner really likes them to be off of the toe edge like this guy's doing. I'm pretty okay if they're off the heel edge. The reason he likes to see them off of the toe edge is to see if you can not only start rotation but stop rotation without just digging your edge in. To me, I think a nose roll is a nose roll. You know, as long as it's actually on the nose and you're rolling through, no biggie. Just like the 180s, problems that I see is lack of pre-wind to help get the rotation around. The inability to hold a pure edge. Like this guy's having a little bit of a hard time because he's kind of skidding out before he does some of them. Doing these from a skid is difficult.
What are some of the common things you see with riders go for level 2 with the nose roll?
maybe they're not getting out there on the nose enough. You know, I want to see them actually roll on the nose. So it can't be, it's not just like a flatland 180. Oh, let's see here. Honestly, these are pretty easy. Either you got them or you don't. It's pretty easy to see.
Are this guy's passing?
Yeah, that's passing level 2 nose rolls. Are they perfect? No. Is he in balance often? Yeah. But those are nose rolls. That's passing level 2.
Cool. This one right here, straight air with a grab. Now, kind of Steve can talk about what you're looking for. Is it off of a man-made feature? Is it off of a side hit? You know, what does the actual manual say?
It could be man-made or otherwise. It's going to be medium to small. It's not. We don't need to see anything big. It does need to be big enough where you can actually get a grab, which means that you probably have to be in the air for, you know, more than 2 seconds. So it's not like a credit card air. It's going to be, you know, a little bit. And I agree with this because I understand it. In a perfect world, I think you should be able to grab wherever you want. The reason that we want to see you grab in between the legs is because if you think about this, this is an exam for instructors. Typically for beginning students, it's going to be easier for them to grab in between their feet because it's going to not throw them off balance. Okay, so that's why they're very specific about grabbing in between the feet. Other than that, I wouldn't really care. Yeah, it'll be a feature. If I'm leading the exam, I'll try to find a feature that suits everybody in the group. We'll probably go and hit it once without, not for the money, and then come back through on the next one and say, okay, now that you felt it, go ahead and try a grab. Because I think it's unfair just to be like, okay, guys, I know you haven't hit this, but do a grab. So for me, I'm definitely going to find something that everybody has hit at least once before we go for the grab. Things that I see that will fail people. Sometimes people have a tendency to reach down without retracting. Okay, so it's kind of a 50-50. You're reaching while you're retracting. If you're just bending over and grabbing, you're probably gonna land on your face. So that's one thing. Additionally, maybe they don't have enough range of motion to create the pop that they need to get up in the air to make the grab happen. Trying to think what else. I mean, if you can't jump, you can't grab. So they need to be clean. They need to know how to get up into the air. They need to know how to get enough air to have the time to make the grab. Typically, we'll see either Indy, Mute, Melon. Those are the grabs. Every once in a while, someone will throw a stale fish, but typically, yeah, those three are what you're going to see.
And you're looking for fingers wrapping around the edge, not just kind of brushing the edge.
Oh, man. So, yeah, I mean, technically, honestly, I don't put a whole bunch of weight on this, okay? If it looks pretty good, looks pretty smooth, and they're touching the board, they're probably not going to fail the exam, okay? I'm going to put more weight on like dynamic turns and things of that nature. Sometimes people will get really freaked out and have a hard time with these. I want to just kind of settle down a little bit. This holds less weight than some of the other tasks.
Okay, and on to 50-50 over a small boxer rail.
Yeah, I mean, this one's pretty cut and dry.
Now, do you like to see an ollie or a pop on or a ride on and a ollie off or a pop off?
Right. So there are two schools of thought on that. One thought is that if it's a ride on, you should ride on to it. Again, I've had this conversation with a lot of you guys, but if it's a ride on and you pop to it, you're kind of going to end up with a weird trajectory and you're going to kind of slam down. You're actually going to the box versus kind of going up to the box. So I'm not too concerned with that. If it's a ride on and they want to ride on, cool. If they want to pop to it to show me that they can do that, that's fine too. Same thing with getting off the box, ride on or ride off it or pop off. I'm not too concerned. What I do sometimes see is people get a little dramatic with their pop to show me that they know how to, and then it throws them off balance. So I would rather not see pop than have somebody pop so hard that it throws them off balance.
What are some of the common things you see that people can't do in the 50-50 over a small box and rail?
Well, similar to what this person's doing right here. See how that lead shoulder is open a little bit? So it is a 50-50 that I want to see. So if the upper and lower body are not in alignment, then that board can slip out and start to turn. And then whether they clean the rail or not, I mean, I didn't ask for a board slide. I asked for 50-50, right? So alignment is a thing. I would say just kind of uncomfortability on the feature. Like they're not used to riding boxes rails, so they're very stiff. They're too upright. And when you get too upright on a snowboard, there's a tendency for you to engage the edge, which is a problem. So yeah, keeping the eyes up, nice and flat based, and just going straight down the feature.
So are you looking for someone to make their way all the way down the feature? Can they slide off early? Can they do like slide off the side? You want to see a complete ride of the box?
I would like to see a complete ride of the box. If I don't, and this would be similar to like the jump with the grab. It's going to be a situation where I probably am going to try to let them have a couple shots at it before we go for the money, just so they know what the feature's like. I mean, anyone who's ever ridden boxes or rails know that sometimes they're stickier than you think they're going to be. Sometimes they're faster than you think they're going to be. So I think as an examiner, it's important for me to allow them to actually feel what the feature's like before I say, you know, you passed or you failed it.
Cool. So this is the riding day. This is what you're going to be doing. You're going to be doing those 11 different tasks with the examiner, and it's supposed to be fun. Make sure that you are having, you know, a loose time. You're chatting with your other folks in there, cheering each other on. Treat it like fun, so you're as loose as you possibly can to do these tasks. So day 1 is over. Now it's time for day 2. Next day you show back up at the exact same time. But now it's time to do some teaching. So here are the level 2 teaching tasks that are given in the national standards. So on day 2, these go into a hat, right? Yeah. And you get a chance to pull out of the hat any of these tasks. Now, the clinicians will go through each of them and perhaps cherry pick. This one I don't want to see. This one I don't want to see. What ones are yours that you like to see, and which ones are yours you don't like to really see?
So I don't like them to be vague. The whole reason that there's a list at level 2, not so long ago, we used to allow the participant to choose their task, which in a way I like. But what would happen is they'd bite off more than they could chew, and you know you're only going to have like 15 minutes
at the most,
right? To teach, and so they bring something kind of that they try to do too much, and so this is a way for us to help us kind of frame, like try to help them not bite off more than you chew. Things that I would like on this list: enter the pipe is cool. Surface threes maybe. Enter the switch. Basic bump riding. There's some that I don't like, or if I use them, maybe I would just change the wording a little bit. Like for instance, let's see here, basic turns to link turns. I would maybe change the wording and say I want to see basic C turns, like just C turns into transitions, something like that. The idea is to not confuse the participants; it's to help them out. Additionally, and we're never trying to blow anybody up, but I can actually add whatever I want, which I try to keep it to the list for the most part, because at level 2 especially, sometimes people get a little intimidated by the process. So if they've already seen the list and I give them something else, that might freak them out. But at the end of the day, if someone knocked it out of the park in the morning, I might snazz it up and try something a little bit different to see how far they can take it. At level 2, we're looking for the ability to build a logical progression. I want to make sure that any of the terminology or any of the parts of the progression that they use, they understand. At level 2, we see lots of canned progressions, meaning a progression that they learned from their trainer or from somebody else that they kind of stole. That's okay. That can be okay at level 2, as long as I can tell a canned progression a mile away. as long as they understand each part of that cam progression, because I'm going to be asking them on the chair. And if they don't know why they did certain steps of the progression, or they don't understand, you know, certain words that they used, that's going to be a problem. Okay, so if you've got a progression that you learned from your trainer that you really like and you have completely dialed, that's fine. But just make sure you completely understand it. There needs to be ownership of the material.
So you get to have the morning session where everybody gets these tasks, and you have, depending on the group size, up to 15 minutes. After each session, you get to have the warm and fuzzy seat, or you get to have a ride with both examiners where they talk about stuff and try to dig and find out your knowledge. What are some of the common things you see on the chairlift ride after, you know, their teaching segment?
So we'll ask questions, and the questions vary, but we'll ask that directed at, you know, at the progression that they gave. Did you ask what some of the problems were?
Yeah, like what do you see people doing on the hot seat? Are they
right? Well, like I was saying, they will have used a term, or they will have stated something in such a way that I don't think they understand it, for instance. And then I'm going to ask them. I'm going to ask them about that term or about that phrase that they used, and see if did they misstate something, but they understand the concept. Because honestly, like I'm kind of a layman. Like, you don't have to know every acronym for me. But you have to know what that acronym means. So maybe they stated something in a way that I didn't fully understand. So I'm going to dive in and see if they can explain it to me. And if they can, then that's good. I think a lot of times people at level 2 don't understand that you need to be precise in what you're saying. If you want me to flex, don't tell me to bend my knee, because that's only part of the puzzle, right? If you want me to flex, tell me to flex my ankle, my knee, and my hip, because if I just bend my knee, I'm going to flat back myself, and I don't want to do that. So there needs to be understanding. I want to see body part specific. They need to kind of understand how, you know, the biomechanics of snowboarding work.
Do you ever see people just make shit up? Like, they're asked a question that they obviously don't understand.
Yeah, that happens more than I'd like. That's called digging yourself a hole. When you don't understand something, but you just are going for it. You're like, okay, they know that I don't know this, but I'm going to show them that I do, and then you just kind of keep on going. So, yeah, don't make stuff up. It's better if you don't understand a concept, but you just make that statement, and that'll save everybody some time. But sometimes too, though, it's not that they don't understand it; it's that they weren't very good at articulating it, and so having the ability to articulate is obviously important as an instructor, but in the exam, people get nervous, and sometimes they say weird things. So, like, if they say something weird, but I'm able to get around to what they actually meant on the chair, and I understand it, it makes sense, that can be fun.
Yeah, don't be afraid to say, I don't know, because a lot of times they're going to dig to see the end level of your knowledge. Okay, we're going to keep going down the hole. Keep saying, okay, sweet, perfect. You are at or above the level 2 bar. So do not be afraid to say, I don't know. I've seen it catch too many people in my stint. So we got those turns, basically turn, okay, improved transition, dynamic skidded turns, the basic carved turns. Now, one thing that is different in the afternoon than the morning is the examiner might decide to change a few things up. What are some of the things that you can change on the groups, depending on what you want to see from the individuals or their morning teach segment?
So I guess I don't understand the question.
Do you ever kind of point a task towards an individual who, like, say you had someone do more of a freestyle-y thing or something in the morning or whatever?
So what we're looking for is a base of knowledge. We want to see where you're at. That's because ultimately, as an examiner, I've never passed or failed anybody. I'm there to assess. Okay, so we're trying to figure out what they know. So if I see something in the morning that leads me to believe that they might not know something, I might give them that just to see if I'm wrong. Okay, maybe then sometimes they prove me wrong. Like, okay, they got it. We're never trying to blow anybody up, but we are checking for the depth of knowledge. Sometimes, as mentioned earlier, somebody just knocks it out of the park in the morning. We might give them something a little more difficult because I want to see where they are, and that's good feedback. It was like, hey man, you got your level 2 today, but you're real close to level 3 in your understanding, which is good feedback for them to have. So we're never trying to make the experience hard on the participant, but we are trying to figure out exactly what they know. And we only have like, one, I guess two if you count the ride day. We only have, a limited amount of time to figure this out. I can only assess them to what I see that weekend. So in the past, I've seen instructors who I know are level 2, but in the moment, they just weren't. And I've seen the opposite. I've seen somebody like, man, they really pulled that one out, man. So I can't judge, like, for instance, I've ridden like with Gio a ton, right? I know what Gio can do. But that doesn't mean that I could say, well, you know what? He wasn't quite there this weekend, but I've ridden with him, so I'm going to give him the stamp. Can't do that. So you need to show up ready to do your very best.
One of the different things this year because of COVID and such is there's gonna be, the feedback is gonna be a little bit different than normal. Normally on the day of, after your riding day, you if you are not going to take the teach segment the following day, you could get your results from your examiner. Or if you're rolling it into the teach day as well, then the end of the teach day, you will go through both days with your examiners. This year, it's gonna be all via email, and you will get your feedback after the fact. You won't have the results right away, which is a little bit different. And this is all brand new to us. I just heard about it this last week.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be a little different. I like the part about talking with the clinicians and whatnot afterwards.
That's like my favorite part. Like, I can tell you this, guys, being an examiner kind of sucks, okay? Because I'm just like you guys. I like to help people, okay? That's when I'm leading the clinic. I'm trying my best to help the group. In the exam, like I mentioned earlier, I'm just there to assess. I can't give you clues. I can't try to improve what you're doing. I'm just there to assess. So not having that, at the end of the second day, that chance to sit down and talk to people face to face about what I saw, where they can improve, where they're strong, it bugs me. But I mean, it's COVID. There's nothing I can do about it. So we will make sure that we do the very best that we can to give you good written feedback. And that's just kind of what we have to deal with this year.
So kind of reaching towards the end there, I don't want to make sure you don't go too far over, but I want to have you guys kind of, ask some questions that you can think of that might be in your mind about the exam process itself, about, a specific one of those drills that you feel you need some clarification on.
Actually, let's side note that for 1 second.
Yeah.
I have something really important to say, okay? And I think this is super, super important. So level 3 is a little bit more real. Level 3 is you're supposed to improve the group. So you come in there, you're supposed to watch them on the riding day, see some commonalities, and then work towards fixing that, okay? Level 2 is not that. So at level 2, you're not trying to improve the group. What you're trying to do is show the group how you teach, okay? So you could line it up and say, okay, guys, I got intro to pipe, and this is how I like to teach my students. Go. You're not trying to fix the group, okay? And I think that's an important thing to understand. And that's where it can be a little bit contrived. And that's where sometimes level 2 can be a little confusing to people because they're like, you're not actually trying to teach the group. You're trying to show the people in the group how you teach the general public. Okay, does that make sense? Okay. All right, back to you guys. Questions?
One of them, or I have a couple questions. One of them, I know I ask this pretty much every weekend. Level 2, is there going to be another one? Do we have any idea?
Yes. I just talked to the division. They're in the process of trying to come up with the dates. They're looking to do an exam at Stevens Pass, and then one down here is either Meadows or Bachelor. Okay. Probably they'll probably have the level 2 at Stevens and down here in Oregon as well, would be my guess. They probably won't have a level 3 down here, would be my guess. And the weeks, and don't hold me to this, okay? They're still working this out, but they're looking at the last week or two in March for Stevens, and they're looking for the first week or two in April for the Oregon one.
Okay, would they be released around the same time?
They never run the exams at the same time. I mean, or are you talking level 2 and 3?
Onto the calendar is what I meant.
I'm sorry, what?
Put them on the calendar around the same time.
They probably will. I'm sure that I would expect, keep going to the website.
Yeah.
I would expect any day now they'll have that out because they understand, like they're trying to get it going. So yeah, just be patient. But I'm saying I'd say if you don't know the dates by Friday, something's up.
Okay. The other question I had is for the end of the clinic thing, feedback. So it's all written. There's not like a Zoom call afterwards, like to have the interaction remotely.
There can be, if you request after you get your feedback to have a verbal communication with the clinicians, you will then contact the division, which they will set up a Zoom call between both clinicians and Kirsten, so that way everybody can be on the same page when they give feedback.
Got it.
So I've talked with Kelly. They've ran a couple of these feedback sessions like this, and it actually has worked out pretty good. So we'll see when we actually have to do it.
Okay.
Anything else?
Cool. Well, once again, if you guys do have questions, you're welcome to email me or Steve. Totally okay, or talk to me in person. I thank you, Steve, for taking time out of your evening to come and hang out with us and get an examiner's point of view of what you see every time. And by the way, I've shadowed exams since 2017, 18. And like it's a tough job being in their shoes. Like it's you guys put all this work into it throughout seasons or years to get to where you are and take the exam, and then to be assessed and then to be a pass or fail. Like I've seen it all. Crying, happiness, anger. Just be mindful that they're not there to tell you how bad of a writer you are or tell you that you are not a great coach. They're just assessing to that one exam and to the national standards. So be mindful of that. These guys get yelled at every year. So
Well, not every year, but sometimes it happens for sure.
I don't know why I want to do it. Cool, guys. Well, hey, thanks for hanging out, and have a great night. It's a pleasure. Always a pleasure to see you, Eliza. We'll see you soon. You're going to come right down here soon, right? Yeah, we're stoked.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Bye, guys.
Thank you.